everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, ChicagoJazz.com, and welcome to another episode of Chicago Music Revealed. This is a very special series we're doing about the International Jazz Day coming to Chicago, Sunday, April 26th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. There's a very special panel focused around the International Jazz Day. Mark Ruffin is spearheading the entire panel and the entire project. I just had a nice chat with him, and he described the importance of this entire endeavor, which I completely agree with too. So we had a good conversation. That's in one of the other videos. But this gentleman here, Burt Burdeen, is somebody that Mark Ruffin specifically mentioned as one of his mentors, somebody that he really looks up to. So I'm excited to be talking to him. Burt, welcome to the show. Thanks for being on. And I should tell everybody it's 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Cultural Center. It's free, but you should RSVP because it's going to get sold out quickly. So, Burt, thanks for jumping on. You have done so much with your career that you and I could talk for like 5 hours without even batting an eye here. But I'm going to try to shrink it down so we can focus on this. Let's talk a little bit about your thoughts. We can talk about all your history, but just off the top, how important do you think it is for people, especially the younger generation and, the older generation as well, but the younger generation to understand the power that radio had coming up and with how it pushed jazz out to the masses and connected everyone throughout the entire country?
I really think that from the big band days on through, and thank God that there are still some outlets that are playing jazz, and even going back and doing some of those older playing some of the older artists that were really very good in their day. And I hate to say it that we do this all the time, and
Yeah.
God, it is an educational thing as well. As an example, I found an Oscar Peterson and Count Basie piano duet on this thing,
Yeah.
and I sent it to an elder friend of mine, and he said, "Send me more." So, but I think radio and all of the communication outlets have contributed to keeping this stuff alive. And it just entered my mind, a very important outlet are high schools,
Mm.
because they do the big band stuff, and that's, to me, that's great, along with trios, quartets, etc. So.
It's interesting to me because the way the world is these days, you pick up your phone, to your point, and you're on Spotify, you're on YouTube, you're on wherever you can see all this stuff. Even with me, when I got out of music school in the 90s, which I wish this was around in the 90s because I had to sit and transcribe things for like hours on end to learn how to play drum set parts and everything else. But that was obviously something that a lot of people don't do anymore, which you really get inside the music when you do that. But also I relied on radio to learn about all these artists. I mean, I would hear things and from Larry Smith on the overnights when I'd be coming home from a gig, and he'd be playing stuff. I still remember his opening, like, sit back, relax, and let's get ready to swing. And he
Yeah.
just throw down something super fast. It was like, whoa. But I would learn about all these artists that were in New York and Kansas City and LA and Detroit and everywhere else, because that was the only spot you could actually learn about it, was on the radio and hear it on the radio. And then you go buy albums from that. Now, with you being the program director, and also you were the program director at WSDM, which was the all women's jazz
Yeah.
station
Yeah.
as well, which we need to talk about. But from a programming director standpoint and from the power of radio, did you realize how connected radio was making the world at that point with the music? I mean, bringing all these different artists into other people's orbits, because otherwise you'd never be able to see or hear half of the people that you ended up listening to.
I had no clue. I had no clue about the enormity of what radio was doing. I mean, I was the same. I could pick up AM stations from far away. What? Chicago's not good enough? Well, you like to experiment a little bit and get around to some other places. But when it came to the far end of the dial, I was there for blues, for all these people that were, in clubs and until the unions got a hold of it, changed things around a little bit, which is okay. But I did not, I just didn't think about it that way. I was so focused on what I was doing at WSDM and the entire format of what we were doing. Before that, I did do a jazz show on another radio station. That's a whole other story. But that's really where I was going with that station with WSDM.
Yeah. Well,
So
I think a lot of people don't realize it because from me running Chicago Jazz Magazine and ChicagoJazz.com and starting it and everything else, I'm looking at ads, I'm looking at content. You're
oh,
kind of
yeah.
in the business, as you well know. And then all of a sudden, 20 years later, maybe you look around and go, oh, wow. Because sometimes I look back and say, I did interview Herbie Hancock. I did interview Roy Haynes. I did interview these guys. At the moment, you're just doing it. It's great. It's done. Okay, next thing, next thing, next thing. But you don't really realize the connection that you're having,
Yeah.
especially with the radio thing. My gosh, that's an everyday situation that you're pumping out programming constantly, right?
And I did have that same experience, by the way, because I just adored, if that's okay to say for a guy, Julian Cannonball Adderley. He was just one of the nicest people I have ever met in my life. And whenever he came to Chicago, I got a call from him or he would come and be interviewed. Just, wonderful. And I didn't think about that until, I don't know, until somebody said, hey, talk to me about your, what kind of experiences have you had? And well, I did this and I did. And, one of the things that I did not like to do was to ask people for their autographs. I have albums that I could have brought and had people sign, and I never liked to bother the artist.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers any
Well,
of the
that, but
questions.
that, but that's the thing, right? It's like
Yeah,
I never took pictures with all these people because you feel weird. It's like, what am I? Okay, everybody, here we go. Let's take a picture now or something. Well,
yeah,
of course, now I probably do because of Instagram. But back then, I didn't do any of that
yeah,
stuff. But that
yeah.
that's like another way of connecting. And talk a little bit about WSDM because that was owned by the Chess brothers, right? And then
Correct.
and then it was taken over. So talk a little bit about how you ended up there and the concept of doing an all women's jazz station.
Okay, I was at another radio station at the time, and I was pleased to be there. I had no guidance. I didn't know, which way to go, and
Yeah.
I did. I have a friend that said to me, you got to start talking about yourself. And I go, okay, I did because I never liked to do that. I always felt that, oh yeah, this guy's really on some kind of ego trip. I'm not, but you asked the question, so I got the job there uh, because of Leonard Chess. I knew Leonard, and Leonard, I think, put the bug in his brother's ear as well. Phil,
Hmm.
and I kept on trying to get the gig at WSDM. It was WHFC at first. I kept on bothering them. They were more concerned about WVON at the time, to get that off the ground. Finally, what happened was a guy by the name of Mickey Shore listened to me, and he was little hesitant about it. And I put together a production tape that included his voice and sent it to him, and that did it. Got me a job as to be the music director at WSDM. So I started putting together a library. By the way, it was automated, and we were working with models and other people that had great voices that were looking for gigs, and we were recording them. They were doing the back cells of the album, of whatever album we were going to play. In other words, they would title the entire album on tape, and then we would add that to the music that we were playing. It was all a Schaefer automatic system, but we did play some records later on in the format. Once because we realized we had to make some changes there, and we didn't call them DJs. We called them den pals. A lot of this came from Mickey Shore. I want to give him credit
Yeah.
because he came up with an awful lot of this stuff. He didn't stay long enough because I think he had some management skill problems. And eventually I took over, and Linda Smith Ellerby also came into the picture. Well, she came into the picture even before that. So, but our whole focus, and Mickey came up with this, was, and I love this, we want to do jazz-oriented pop and pop-oriented jazz.
Mm,
And if you think about it, the artists that we played, Nancy Wilson,
yeah.
Quincy Jones, and then the hardest part about the format was trying to get balance out of it. It's very hard to do with an automated system of tape, but that's what we did. That's
How,
basically it.
how did you, I mean, just programming wise, to put that kind of thing together? Because at that point, that was a brand new format, essentially. I mean, if you're thinking, you're creating this format, for you to be able to program that, I mean, you had to spend hours on hours listening to things and understanding the artist to bring that into the fold, right?
You think?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I wanted you to tell me, but yes, I
Yeah.
know.
Not it was not very easy, but we managed, and we had other elements that we put in as well, like comedy, record reviews, and show reviews, and
Hmm.
shtick that we
Yeah.
produced,
Yeah.
and it worked, and yeah, it was unique. And yeah, did we get complaints? Yeah. Well, what are you playing that for? That's not jazz. And I went through that argument when I went through an argument with people that said, WLS is playing Ramsey Lewis. WLS is playing Dave Brubeck. I said, "Oh, that's great." What do you mean it's great? It doesn't belong on this. Yeah, it does, because it opens up some minds about other music besides the rock and roll that they were playing. If they said it fit in, plus Ramsey Chicago, is that okay? You don't mind that, right? I mean,
Well, you're preaching to the choir because the Chicago Jazz publishes the Jazz Fest program for the past 20 years, 20 plus years now, jazz and blues. And so when I'm at the fest, with Chicago Jazz Magazine and somebody doesn't like what's being played, they obviously think that I programmed it. It's my fault. And they're going to come and tell me all about it. So, but, again, it's like, I don't like, this isn't jazz. That's not jazz. I hate jazz. I'm not going to listen to jazz. And then you just simply point out, do you like Frank Sinatra? Yeah. Well, you like jazz. I'm sorry to tell you. So I can only imagine with you doing a new format, the amount of, critics and the amount of help that everybody wanted to give you programming it the way they wanted to hear it had to really be inundated, but it obviously worked because you're appealing to a new audience that kind of likes all of it, right?
yeah. And by the way, Frank Sinatra with Count Basie, I'll take
Oh,
it any day.
oh, Live at the Sands, my favorite, hands down, done.
You know,
It doesn't
and,
swing harder
and
than that.
and then I caught another Duke Ellington with Ella Fitzgerald the other day on this thing. Come on,
Yeah, yeah. It
just
doesn't. Every time when I used to teach, I'd be like, "All right, you wanna really learn how to play in the pocket and swing. Listen to Count Basie live at the Sands with Sinatra. Just listen to that for like 2 months. Just go
and
ahead, done."
and not nothing against Joe Williams.
No, no, no. Now, so
Oh,
you must have
there's
you must have been able to meet so many people over the years with all of this stuff. I mean, is any of this archived anywhere? Was it being recorded, or is it just off into the ether?
I think it's in, well, some of it's in my basement, but that's beside the point. So, yeah, I don't know. I do have a problem because I like all kinds of music.
Yeah, yeah.
My bucket list is to go downtown. I want to go to a symphony. And I hear, oh, they're doing that. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
So
think that's also good because as a musician or as somebody programming a radio station, you have to be open to everything. You can't be boxed in because you never know what you're going to discover.
I I thoroughly agree. And forgive me for mentioning Taylor Swift. There, I just mentioned it. That's it. Anyway, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I could go on and on as far as programming is concerned, and as far as meeting people. Yeah, I met an awful lot of people. Jimmy Smith, Nina Simone,
Uh,
Nancy Wilson. I got a gold record, by the way, for one of Nancy's albums. Uh,
really?
yeah, brought her home for dinner. My wife made dinner one night, and then I took her to the Sutherland Lounge,
Oh,
where Larry Smith would do a remote. Just uh, Steve Allen,
yeah, yeah.
Arthur Fiedler.
Well, that's the fascinating thing because then you went from there and you also helped curate the broadcasting degrees over at Columbia, right? I mean, you created an entire department over there.
43 years.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
43 years. And every, I loved every minute of the teaching part of it,
Right.
the putting together of a class part of it. The other part of it from the upper echelon, not so much.
Right.
Once Al left, it was a little more difficult. But I had some friends there, Cheryl Morton, Langston, and a few other people that I was able to work with, and it was fine. But that was a wonderful career. COVID kicked me out.
Yeah. Yeah.
COVID kicked so many people out, and you want to know, COVID also changed my listening habits. This is a rabbit hole for me,
Hmm.
and so is DCB and a few other stations that I listen to and TV. But this thing that's going on in Washington.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy. It's crazy. But I'll tell you what, the one thing that I'm seeing, just to kind of wrap this up with you, because you and I could keep talking. I'm trying not to ask certain questions because I know we'll talk for 45 minutes. So
And I'm
you'll
trying
have
to keep it short.
to you'll have to go to the panel. So April 26th, 1 p.m. to
Yeah.
3 p.m. at the Cultural Center, Our Jazz Life, a celebration of the history of jazz radio in Chicago, 78 East Washington. Be sure to RSVP. I'm going to link it up down below. It'll be on chicagojazz.com. But, just to kind of wrap this whole thing up with your long career and then also running the broadcasting department at Columbia College, you've seen radio specifically change immensely and
Oh,
go into the online thing, which is what this is obviously that I'm doing right now. So I don't have commercial breaks, which is nice. It helps a lot, but it's a lot less structured, which I like because I think there's more of a connection. However, you're not reaching the audience with things that you used to be able to reach. So where do you think the broadcasting world is going here? I mean, where do you see this going? Is it all going to just be formatted and big conglomerates running it and just running through their marketing plan and this is the way everything is? Or is there going to actually be something like what you were having back in the day on WSDM, where there's going to be a local talent happening and creating their own shtick and
well,
doing their own?
this is what you would call narrow casting.
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember that phrase. And once corporate gets a hold of it, they just mess it up, I think. And of course, it's all about the bottom line. Um, I'm pretty sure that FM, which is a wonderful medium, I think it may still be around, and maybe I mean, if CBS, Paramount can blow a bunch of money just to put their news radio on FM and forget about that medium or the AM medium for selling time. They took a whole station and
Yeah.
duplicated it, and that's a lot of money to lose. Well, if a station or a company like that can take a chance, maybe some other people will take a chance. And because it's all about the bottom line. And I don't know, I see some other things happening there as far as salaries are concerned.
Yeah.
But, I'm hearing things now from some people that, it's not all about the money. It's about what you want to do and how you want to live your life. And that's really it. So
Yeah.
I hope it'll be around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so do I, because, it was a big part of my upbringing, learning about music, learning about, well, talk radio too. I listen to a lot of talk radio. It's probably why I have a talk show here online, like, hey.
But look at your interests and what you have to do to keep that magazine going.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I just sit back. I'm on a beach all day. It's easy. It's a jazz magazine. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't look at the bottom line. That's what I do.
And thank God that we have some newer jazz artists coming
Yes.
up. I haven't kept in touch with a lot of them, but I know they're out there and they do great things and they remember the others that came before them.
That's right. That's the key. That's the key to the whole thing. So, all right, Burt, I appreciate you jumping on here. It is a pleasure to meet you virtually. Hopefully, I will meet you in person April 26th. Of course, Sunday, April 26th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Cultural Center. Our Jazz Life, a celebration of the history of jazz radio in Chicago. The panel discussion not to be missed. Burt Burdeen, I appreciate it. And man, it's great talking
Thank
to
you.
you. We could have talked about a million things, and
Yeah,
I will
thank
have you
you.
back for a long one at some point soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's been a
Of
pleasure.
course, thanks to everybody for watching. All the information is going to be on chicagojazz.com. And until next time, hopefully I will see somebody out on the scene.